boys.
Okay, now that we've covered all of these rules, then I have to ask myself, what am I going to do when you bring me your safety wire? I go, is this good enough?
Physically,
And
send it out and find
and it's got excessive twists, and it's pulling to the loose. So
send them outside, have them find their own stick. Dunce cap.
This is aviation. We can't do that. We'd use a spinner.
Yeah.
The one with firing assholes.
Yeah.
By the propeller on the little
Yeah,
table.
Cooper put it on. He looked like he was going to space.
You'll notice I'm very careful. I don't say you're stupid. I say, are you an idiot? See, it's different. When I get called on the carpet, say in my defense, I didn't say they were stupid. I asked them.
And their response. Yeah. What is it? Throw a stone at a pack of dogs. The one that yelps is the one you hit. Are you an idiot? And
oh, got it. Okay.
It's exactly like that, actually.
Just like Magneto.
It is just like
Did Adam say that?
Yeah. Adam, what's your response?
All right. So the nice thing I'm trying to say here, I'll say it nicely. Stop and review your work. That's the only reason why you guys are doing this. It's not that you don't know. You know. You're just either in a hurry or you're relying a little bit too much on somebody else's eyes. You know, stop and inspect your work. Now, of course, it happens. I mean, there have been times where I've safetied things and got all done and put everything away and kind of looked at it and go, you're just do that all backwards. It happens, right? It's no big deal. You safety something backwards. I do it every now and then. You just look at it and go, it's backwards.
Walk away.
Nobody saw it, so I can cut it off real quick before, just inspect your own work. And there we go. All right, let's talk about cotter pins. Briefly, I don't have much on here. So cotter pins will be used on castellated nuts, on bolts. It would not be used on studs. A stud, and I'm going to talk a lot about studs, and you got to be careful about, if I'm talking about studs and whatnot, for you guys, don't just Google studs to see what I'm talking about. You're going to get something different.
It's just going to pull the photo of.
Alright, so, like, there's a lot of studs in engines, and so what you do is you have, this would be a blind hole, right? Because it doesn't go all the way through. If it goes all the way through, then it's not a blind hole. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about a blind hole or not. All right, so we got all the threads in here, threads. And we'll have a stud. A stud is a headless bolt that goes, thank you for being straight, and that's going to go in here. There you go. And so this has threads threaded in there. Then there's usually like no threads in this area. Then threads up here, that might be left-hand thread the way I drew it. Don't worry about that. All right, so that's a stud, right? So there's no head on it. Well, how do we get it in there? We use a special tool that clamps onto it. In automotive or other worlds, we would take two nuts, put the nuts on there, tighten them against each other, and that makes the special tool that puts it in. We don't do that in aviation unless you really, really have to. Sometimes you do, because in theory, it creates a stress point where those two nuts are jammed together. So we don't jam nuts together. We use a special installer, and you'll use one. It's a rather expensive set of tools that have collets in them and a thing, and so you'd screw, they're about that tall. You'd screw it down on there, and then you screw another nut, and it clamps it on. Really, that whole thing. You'll see them. Anyway, we install it. But this is the point I want to make. Yeah.
So do you use like a cabin guy to make that type of stud, or do you not make studs?
You buy them. No, you've heard. You don't make anything on airplanes unless you're supposed to. You're not supposed to. All right. So I'm going to make this out of red so you can see it. So there's a stud. Got it? Sticking inside of some sort of apparatus. And the reason why you have a stud is, like, engines have them all over the place. I mean, the amount of studs on my engine is got to be 50 or more of them. Probably way more than 50. Because the cylinder would then bolt on here. And then I'm going to bolt something on there and make it blue. So something's bolted here. That's all solid piece. Right, and the nut's going to go on top of that, bolted on. Follow me?
Yes.
All right, so cylinders, carburetor, magneto. I mean, every accessory on the engine is pretty much held on with a stud. So what happens if I take a castellated nut, which is kind of castellations going around, and I put in a cotter pin.
The whole stud turns it into a bolt.
I've just made a bolt. Now I can't, this is a hard one for me to explain. Some people get it, some people don't. But what is the cotter pin supposed to do?
Prevent the nut from backing off.
Prevent the nut from backing out. Well, if I stuck a cotter pin in there and cotter pinned it just perfect, and then I put a wrench on my castellated nut and started loosening it, where would it get loose from? It would all start getting loose right in this area, and I would pull out an entire stud, castellated nut, and cotter pin, and go look at that. It's a bolt. So don't use cotter pins on studs. Use safety wire.
Use bolts.
On your internet, don't use stud, just use bolts to save yourself the trouble. There you go.
Do not use on studs. Cotter pins used on items subject to rotation, which is to say there's relative movement against the nut. So a propeller has 6 bolts. They are not subject to rotation. Yes, they go round and round, but the 2 things that they're holding against are not rotating underneath that nut. Do you follow? It's
So-
just like the wheel lugs on your car. Are they subject to rotation? No. They go round and round, but there's nothing trying to untwist them. Yeah.
Flight controls. When
Flight
they're
controls
linked
is an
together.
absolute, because on our flight controls, ailerons, well, you guys know what ailerons are now, flaps, trim tabs, all that stuff. A lot of times the hinges are a bolt. So you put the bolt through, that is the hinge. What goes on this end?
Castellated.
Castellated nut, because the whole thing is subject to rotation. You're rotating something around that bolt, it can do that. So used on items subject to rotation for sure. It can be used on other things too, but that is the opposite of the other. The rule is never use a self-locking nut on something that's subject to rotation. Therefore, I made this rule: you would use a cotter pin on something subject to rotation. Use the largest cotter pin that fits the hole. Now when I say that, you've got to see which cotter pin fits the hole before you put the whole thing together. Because you can't have this gigantic bolt and this teeny tiny little cotter pin because you're like, well, it's the only one that fits. Well, yeah, because you didn't line the holes up. So all you got left is this little sliver of a hole. You take the bolt before you put anything on it and see which cotter pin fits. A better way to do it is that little blue book actually has the part number of the castellated nut and says used with cotter pin number.
Maintenance manual, if they're giving it to you step by step, they might also tell you.
You would hope, but trying to find cotter pins for my wheels was
I was lucky, I guess.
they
They didn't trust me to figure it out myself.
All right. Let's see, cotter pins never reuse. Unless you anneal them and send them back to send them back to the factory for overhaul.
Just send you new ones and be like, yeah, we overhauled them already. That'll be $300.
Cut in so. Let me rephrase this. Cut so in. Cut so that ends do not extend. Extend past bolt diameter and do not touch washer. Yes.
Are there like heli-coils? Are there are cotter pins the same? They're all worthy?
Oh, yeah. I think he's asked, is there any are cotter pins used in aviation like bolts?
There are specific, they're either AN or MS part number.
Cotter pins?
Yes, they are.
You can't just go to.
Can't go to
You
Napa.
can't, no, you can't go to Napa and get some. Well, you're not supposed to.
How could you, say you did, is there like a procedure, like if it broke off? How would they know, if it was a cotter pin, and it was it's not an AN or MS?
Oh, it's easy. The kind of people who do that leave other evidence.
Ah,
Their logbooks.
There's always a huge trail. And that is usually just the and that.
okay, that's.
It's, so there are these people out in the field, I'm not gonna lie to you, who just, you can tell, when you touch a plane after them, it is just, it would be comical if it wasn't so deadly. And then that's when the FAA comes in and they just start writing. And it's not a cotter pin, it's 100 different things. And the cotter pin is the least of their, but it'll get noticed.
And then you go get to work on cars.
Eh.
Might not even go.
Yeah, at
If
that
you're
point.
lucky, yeah.
All right, self-locking nuts.
Work on lawnmower.
Not used where? Where? Very good. I'll put that one first since you said it. Not used where bolt is subject to rotation. Where else?
High heat. High heat. Yeah, you gotta have a. You gotta have a specific
Well, they have
one.
The
specific
nylon,
ones.
the nylon ones.
I didn't specify nylon or high temp, so it's just self-locking nuts. Not used where, there's only two rules. Bolt is subject to rotation and, what's that? Did I hear something back there?
Losing nut would cause catastrophic damage.
Loose nut can get ingested into engine. And the last thing I had on my list was PAL nuts. And we'll come back around to lock washers, I believe. PAL nuts, they are not reused. And I showed you what a PAL nut is. A lightweight nut used to lock against a primary nut. And now the fun part, I think.
So self-locking nuts and cotter pins can be used on bolts, but only cotter pins can be used on, but bolts and self-locking nuts can be used on studs. Is my question?
No, if you put a self-locking nut on a stud, you just made a bolt again.
Oh, so wait a minute. So then,
If it's safety, if it's not safety, then it's not a
yeah. So I seen there's all metal lock nuts for exhaust systems. Then.
thing. Okay, there's a good example. They're all metal nuts, but they aren't self-locking nuts. They're just nuts, and they use lock washers. Okay, so he's talking about an application. So this is a great application. Cylinders on a stud, they don't get any sort of safety. They're just tight enough. On a carburetor that is held on with studs on the bottom of the engine, they are either drilled studs, which means then they will take
A safety wire.
safety wire,
Drilled studs. Yeah.
drilled studs to hold the carburetor, will take a calculated nut and a safety wire, or they're not drilled studs, in which case it will take washer, lock washer, plane nut. Studs that hold exhaust on are typically washer, lock washer, nut. Intake pipes, washer, lock washer, nut. You don't really see self-locking nuts on those.
Ours is a brass nut, and
Those are continental exhaust nuts.
yeah. So those are
They're
just
just tall.
they're just really tall, and I guess they don't vibrate loose. But wouldn't that be like kind of like saying it's a lock nut? Kind of. I mean, I'm not as sure, or is that not like that?
No, it's just a stud and a nut.
But so then the other thing is, as I saw there were all metal lock nuts, like lock nuts that were like ovalized at the end. You know,
Oh, the spiral locks.
that's what they're called, spiral
Yeah.
locks. Okay, so Yeah, so that is, you're saying that
It's
doesn't.
just tight enough, they don't worry about the exhaust stud coming out, it's the nut falling off
So
kind of a
then,
thing.
what are you saying is a lock nut? Why is a nylox like considered a lock nut and not that?
Why do you, I have to, well, of course, I'm always thinking engines, and so I don't use nylon
I
forward
know.
the firewall anyway, if I can help it. So then I'm using a steel lock nut, and I just wouldn't feel good about using just a lock nut. I don't know, because from the factory they come with lock washers, it's just the way they do it. What's the difference? I don't know. I just try and follow what was there by the factory. And it just doesn't seem like they use self-locking nuts on studs. All right, I'll say this. Sometimes you'll see studs with self-locking nuts. Sometimes you'll see studs with washers and lock washers. Sometimes you'll see studs with just a nut. You're a fool if you use a cotter pin on a stud that is drilled.
Okay.
Everything is a go. As long as it's in the parts manual, that's the way it's supposed to be. Everything is acceptable in the stud world except
Putting a
a
cotter pin.
cotter pin. 'Cause that just makes
Sounds
me,
simplified.
Use it locks like for.
no, because that just made a bolt. And
Yeah, we'll just-
somebody said, this is so important that we gotta safety it, and you just defeated the safety.
Yeah. First
Yeah.
For self-locking nuts, they have like the reduced helix or the deformed lock nuts. So
Mhm.
so you screwing it in,
Mhm.
kind of press fits it on.
Mhm.
Are those are just considered high temperature then?
Yeah, it's a different type of lock nut. Yeah, I would call them high temp.
Those are what we saw. all
I have a
the
great
time.
story about that one,
I got a question for 2 minutes. Those
I'll show you.
the helix, so the helix nuts, did they fuck up the stud at all? Like if you replace them out, they don't.
No, and you gotta thank God because Continentals, not yours, but the bigger bore, they use a thing called a Roseanne stud. And you don't know hell until you had to deal with Roseanne studs. A Roseanne stud is a stud, hard for me to explain. Let me see. Yeah, the base metal looks like this.
Oh, it's spelled R-O-S-A-N.
So there's your,
Roseanne fittings.
there's your base metal right there, and this is where the stud's gonna go. Right? So then you put the stud in, and then part of the stud has splines, and then over top of the splines there's a piece of steel that slides down in with spikes in it, and it goes into here and spikes into the metal somehow.
Also,
And
did
so
you-
it locks it in. And the only way to get this apart is with a cutter that comes down over the stud and has a saw blade on it and goes in. And it's really, really difficult to do.
We used to have a bin at the Ace Hardware I worked at that had Roseanne studs. I
Yeah.
remember helping a guy with it one time, and he was so pissed off. And now I know why.
I have 24 of these on my engine. So, okay.
And I love how you know exactly how many.
Are we good with the studs? Hope I didn't confuse you too much.
Where are they usually used at? Roseanne.
Exhaust studs for all big bore Continentals. That's 470s, 520s, 550s. Continental loves them. All right, so the fun part, let's just look at do's and don'ts. All right, so we have 3 things in a row here. Notice that if I remove any one of these here, like if I cut it right here and got rid of all of this right here, can you see the little hand up there? Maybe not, maybe I should. Oh, that's the only choice I have. That this one and this one are both pulling tight.
Yep.
If I cut this one off, this one and this one pull tight.
Yep.
So whenever you have 3, you have to have, you lose one, it is pulling the other one tight. So if I lose this one, that's tight. If I lose this one, this is tight. Follow?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes people go positive, negative, positive. You can't do that. The wire goes around or over a castellated nut?
Over.
Over. Single strand. These screws must be how far apart?
Less than 2 inches.
Less than 2 inches. Notice the castellated nut here. They went around, and you can see how awful that already looks.
Yeah, ooh, and you can see it kind of like
Yeah.
swings out below and you can see a gap out of you.
Well, they just drew it bad. But anyway, this is the one example where you see it where it goes around. I wouldn't do that. Don't do that thing. All right, let's see.
That's the one I looked at first.
This is my video, which we're not going to watch.
Oh.
All right, hey friends. I'm here with my daughter Katie, who's doing the filming, and I'm going to give you a demo on safety wire. So I had to kind of set up a makeshift area here for myself. But these are the tools we're going to want to use. I like to use my safety wire pliers. I will show you how to use those. Otherwise, I like to use duck-bill pliers, wire cutters, and needle nose pliers. I'm going to be using 032 stainless steel safety wire, and I'm going to safety wire these two bolts right here. Now I'm going to get my safety wire out. The proper amount of safety wire is you want to do about twice the distance between here, plus about, I need about 10 inches for the size of my hand. So that's an appropriate amount right there. Cut that off. And of course, always wear safety glasses when you're doing this. All right, I'll just straighten it out so it's here all keyed up. Now I'm going to start with this bolt here. Now remember, we have to have a positive pole, which means that it has to be pulling the bolt tight, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So I could start it from here and pull it around to where the hole is right here. That would be positive. Or I could start way over here, which I normally wouldn't, but I will not do it because it's just the way it won't work with the camera. So we're going to come around. So I'm going to pull this one tight. I'm going to go underneath. And notice I'm doing it all with my hands here. Get it tight. And I'm going to just twist it at a rate of about 6 to 8 twists per inch. Now you'll notice that it's a little loose right here. That's not bad. I can tighten it. And there's a way to tighten it, but you have to be careful not to over tighten it because it will break inside there. But I'm going to do it real slow. I kind of do a loop and bring it around. Normally I do it faster, and that tightened it up. All right. Now I'm going to keep twisting it until I get to the hole right over here. Don't over twist because remember you can't untwist safety wire. So you want to stop before you go too far. Put it through the hole. This is where I like to use pliers because these are sharp little ends. Alright, so I'll pull that in and then I'll use my pliers over here and I'll pull that tight right there. Bring that around. I'll pull this one in. Like that. And now this time I'm going to go backwards, because I want this one here to come underneath this piece of safety wire. If you go this way, then it's going to want to tend to climb over the top of the head. So I go underneath, and again, 6 to 8 twists per inch. And if I want, I can give it one little around the world loop right there. And I like to go at least a full inch right there. Cut it so that you have about 3/4 of an inch sticking out. Now right there, that is a dangerous little thing. You have to hide your ends so nobody gets hurt. So I take that and I pull it right around into a loop, and I can run my hand over that and I won't get hurt at all. So that's how you would do it with that. Now I'll do this one and this one with my safety wire pliers. So again, I want an appropriate amount, not too much safety wire. I like to straighten it out. Now, there's an option you can do. This one has holes at every single head angle, and I got to plan it out so that it's pulling it tight. So when I was done with this one, it's pulling this one tight, and it's pulling that one tight. It's going that way, and that's going that way. So this one, I'll come out about right here, but there's an alternate. When you have all these holes, you can, if you like, put it through like this. I'm going to use my pliers. And notice when I use my pliers, I use it out here where I'm going to throw away the end. I don't like any sort of tool marks on my safety wire because that creates a stress riser. And I will give it a couple twists to get started, just because. Here's the wonderful thing about safety wire pliers. So I'm going to go here. Now it does put tool marks in the wire, which is one of the reasons why I never do this inside of an engine. And you got to be careful because these little pliers are going to whip around. So I just pull it until I get my 6 to 8 twists per inch, and I'm done. And then I always finish it off by hand so that I don't go too far. That looks good right there. Bring it on through. Pull it tight that way. pull it tight this way. Now some safety wire pliers you can reverse them and twist the other way. Mine do not twist the other way. So once I get it started, I usually just clamp it here and then twist by hand like that. So a little loop like that, so it's tight but not too tight. Cut it off. Hide my pigtail. Whoosh. And there we are. That's going positive pull, that's going a positive pull. Nice and tight, nice and tight. Kind of the test is if you can grab it here and pull it over the top of the head, it's too loose. Can't do it. Can't do it. So I'm going to call that airworthy, and there we are. Have a safety wire. Notice how many times I did the around the world thing?
Once. Something I was wondering about in terms of doing the trick where it's got multiple ways where you can put the wire into the bolt head.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere in the 4313 where it says you can do that, or okay?
Not that I noticed.
Would the FAA get picky about it if they saw that?
No.
I thought it was mandatory to do those kind of bullheads. I thought if you have it, you gotta do it just because it's safer. I'm looking through
The FAA doesn't look for stuff like that. There was a guy years ago that kind of did, and he's not around anymore.
Like, generally,
They
in a way that's not going to overstress the wire.
They don't show up with this like, what are you doing? Let me check your safety
Three
wire.
shots to the back of his head, rotosuit.
When they show up and they want to see you, you've already screwed up so bad, they know it. You've been watched for a while. Again, it's not that one little thing. And
Three big things you've done.
if you had an FAA guy standing there, maybe they're at your shop just doing an inspection, and you're doing it like that, something and it wasn't quite right, I usually don't even say anything. They're not allowed to, but if they did, I'd just like, just don't do that. You know. All right. What is it with this class and coat hangers? You guys are the coat hanger kings and queens. No, just kings.
Speak for that.
My girls they don't give me the problem over there. Did you? Not at all. No coat hangers. Do we know what a coat hanger is?
Yes.
Which hole is that going in? This one or this one?
Good question.
Good question.
Good question.
Oh,
None. No coat hangers. Knock it off. Can you not see a coat hanger? If so many people bring me their project, is this good enough? Can you not see the coat? I wear glasses now. I mean, there's a point where I didn't. All right, so we've seen some of these before. What is wrong with this safety wire? No, let me rephrase it. What is right with this safety wire?
It's pulled the right way.
Pulled properly.
Well,
Not that one. That was the left one.
What do we got? This one is going
Positive and the other
positive, and this one is
Coat hanger.
neutral kind of thing.
it's neutral because they did a coat hanger. If it wouldn't have been for the coat hanger, the hole's here and the hole's here.
So do neutral.
So we got a coat hanger, a positive, something, I don't know. What about this?
They untwisted it.
Untwisted it. Well, you can't see that? Oh, yeah. Pigtail, pigtail, pigtail.
Oh.
Lack thereof.
Another little coat hanger. On the right.
That's not too much for good.
Well, on the right.
This one is almost right. Almost. I don't know.
Almost there, except for that
Almost there,
pigtail.
but
Almost only counts.
So,
Horseshoes and pregnancy.
What the?
That's beautiful.
just a little, how about that pigtail?
What pigtail?
It's already coming apart. So.
It's only got like 3 choices.
He took
How
6
did
to
I-
8 literal.
I can't tell.
You
This
can only do
little
8.
right there.
No.
Gave up right here.
And then it's coming over the
Gave up right here. Just stopped it right there. It's like, it's good enough.
It's like he tried to pull it tight, and then he didn't watch it come back out of the bolt as he did his pigtail.
This is where he knew break time was coming up.
That is a coat hanger.
Coat hanger.
And way too little.
I don't think
It's not.
I think it's got tight exactly.
That is.
He figured if he gave it enough extra to come around and it looked positive.
This is he thought maybe he wanted to pull this bolt out later, didn't want to have to unsafety it.
Or at least if it comes out, it's not falling out.
The
Shear wire?
the bolt that holds this alternator on is one of those bolts that has the hole in every flat. So I can't see it, but yeah, it's stuff I just find on the internet. But that right there, that's going to get you.
Yeah.
I don't know about this right here. I think it's going to slide down anyway. So that's going to slide down. That's going to, well, unless that pokes into something and holds it up, maybe there's
Somehow.
Okay.
Practice with gas
A little bit too tight.
Yeah, you can't even figure out what's going on there.
So let's see. This is going.
All the way
Pulling it right or
around.
left.
It's not even really, it's just going all the way through. It's not even wrapped around it, it looks like. Well, maybe
Yeah,
it
it
is,
comes
you just
through.
can't see it.
That one's.
So is this what kind of pull do we have here?
Negative.
Negative. It comes over the top here.
Now it's a neutral on
No,
that
it's
one.
no
So and then comes back around this way. So at least this one right here would be pulling it.
Positive it was.
It's kind of
to
pulling
loose.
it positive to over here, which just
That has
that
like
started
3
here,
twists
actually.
in it.
started here and then went over this way and then around and it makes me.
People do use on actual aircraft.
Does this look familiar to anybody?
Yep.
This is one of our project plates. I took this photo.
When?
A couple of years ago, this was a student who'd already passed 309. This is what they brought to me to turn in. Is this good enough?
Yeah, one moment, let me take a photo of it.
That's exactly what it was.
Why are you laughing?
I needed to take a photo of it.
Yep. If I saw an airplane with this on it, I'd just be all kinds of like confidence. So, where do we start? How many did he do together? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On that one, 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess that one's 5, 6. How many are you allowed to do?
As many as you can with 24 inches of wire.
24 inches of wire.
Ain't no way.
Yeah, I got a question about that 24 inch wire.
What?
What determines 24 inches? Is it 24 inches between each bolt? Is it
24 inches of wire. So you
Wire.
take the wire out of the can,
Stretch out
get 2 feet of wire, whatever you can do with
so
it.
that it's only really 1 foot of wire because you got to double it up, right? It's like 1 foot of
It also
doubled wire,
twists.
so it's like.
Whatever you can do with 24 inches of wire. Here's 24 inches. How many can you do? Yeah.
Go
So
crazy,
you can only
obviously.
do
Three, like up to 3 bolts safety together, or in with 24 inches of wire, or?
You can however many you can do with 24 inches of wire according to 4313.
What was the 2 or 3?
You should usually do 2 or 3.
Keep seeing it.
That's like
I
4
think
feet of
like
wire.
4 is realistically on the plates. 4 is about what you get with 2 feet.
Okay. And I want to say
Yeah, like
engines and
this
stuff
much wire
usually had
and-
6, either 4 or 6 bolts to a gear. So if you had 6, then you can do 3 and 3. Would never do all 6. And you can keep it balanced because it's a rotating
2,
part.
2, 2.
Or 2, 2, 2. Yeah, either way is fine.
Oh,
All right, so this is just a freaking nightmare. Although I don't see any hangers. Oh, maybe this one down here. So.
What grade did you get? Did you get a grade?
Oh,
That's-
great.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me laughing at it. You got an F. That's what you got on that.
That one's impressive.
You think he's an AP?
Nope, I knew he's not.
Oh, wow.
He dropped the program right after I laughed at it.
After you took a picture of his work.
Yeah, he's 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't get
No,
that. Like,
okay, let's be serious. When you do this, you've given up.
You weren't paying
This
attention.
is, I don't even care. Just, either give me my certificate or don't, because I'm not gonna do it your way. This is just, should this person be working on an airplane?
Absolutely not. That took some planning.
You know who, the government would take that.
Safety
That's
to
not
itself.
bad. I mean, it's, I think the pigtail's a little bit short.
It's safety to itself.
Safety to itself.
Well, that's for repetitive inspections.
Ah, okay.
So yes, it's safety to itself. Thank you. There's the hole right there. It should have went through.
It's the only time it can be reused.
So is it positive or negative?
That is. That's a lot to, so that's way more than 24
And it
inches of
keeps,
wire.
does it keep going? It keeps
Yeah,
going
it comes through
along
here,
towards the
goes
back?
through here.
That's so much more than 24 inches.
Now keep in mind, you're gonna get into an airplane or you're inspecting an aircraft. You're the inspector and the inspecting mechanic who just came to you and said, hey, I just finished filling up this damper assembly and I went ahead and safetied it. Can you give me an inspection and sign off? And you're the inspector and you see that. How much confidence do you have in them?
Sure. Absolutely none.
Not even the slightest of bit. It's like, nope. So that's a lot of times why safety wire matters more than anything. It's just confidence building. So that is pathetic, but I like this one up here. I don't know if you can see it. I mean, that's 6 to 8 twists per inch. Looks reasonably tight, comes through here. Pigtail is, I don't like it that it's that sharp, but other than that, anything wrong with this one?
No.
That's the
Going
bolt
through it
hole
all.
that the
Yeah,
bolt's
what's
supposed to
supposed
go
to go
through.
Yeah.
This is the mounting hole, so you need a slotted bolt for that one.
A slotted bolt with a slot can move as you tighten it.
So where would you put the safety wire in that situation?
Anywhere but there.
Anywhere but there. Probably it was maybe, I'd have to look at the whole assembly, maybe this
It
was
looks
some
like there's a
safety
hole
wire
that
for
goes
that,
through below.
or this, maybe was safety
Yeah,
to
right
this
there.
item here, or something like that. It's hard to say, but.
It's definitely
Not
not
that.
the bowl.
Okay, let's see, this one here, what's wrong with this?
I can't even tell.
Oh, that's negative.
It's negative.
Two negative, make a positive.
It's
One
not two negatives.
One positive,
It's
one
one
negative.
negative.
One positive, one negative.
That makes it neutral.
Okay, this is the cable safety, which I don't teach. What's wrong with this one?
Back?
Yeah, looks like that's a reverse bolt.
Looks like he used a little crimp on one side of it.
It's a cable safety.
Oh.
So it is, it's crimped.
Isn't there a specific thing that says, do not mix your safety wire and your cable safety?
I don't know about that. I've never done cable safety at airplanes I work on don't. Nice safety wire, too bad about the electrical wire.
Oh, it's gonna be contact right there, make a short circuit.
He
Yeah.
crushed it.
Crushed it.
That's where I saw it, right here in the nav error. Note, minimize mixing of safety wire and safety cable.
What?
Oh.
Is this an abstract art piece?
That's a Van Gogh cover, see?
Did it start out okay?
Yeah.
No, it's a freaking coat hanger. The hole is here, the hole is here. It starts twisting there.
Yeah, look at that. Look at how he tightened those bolts.
I don't even know what happened here. This one right here, it almost looks like they held one and then twisted the other.
And then what is that pigtail?
Pigtail should always be at least 3 to 4 inches long.
See, they got that 3/4
Not 3 to
backwards.
4
They're
feet.
dyslexic.
It's
You
3
can't
to
blame
4
them.
inches?
Yeah, instead of 3/4 inches.
For the three people, another effect.
Oh,
He just couldn't fit it. He couldn't get it in the hole. You can't
missed
blame
the
him.
hole, didn't even tighten it. Well, hey, look at that, they left it out so you could safety it.
It was a low torque.
The thing that pisses me off the most is, of course, the pigtail.
It's sticking straight up.
It's straight up.
You
Someone
can't
needs
even
to
see it in
garage.
the first photo because it's pointing at the camera.
I remember this one.
Yeah.
What? It's holding something.
I think this is the safety for the spin-on.
Safety.
I don't know why in automotive they don't safety these on. You don't hear about them coming off too often, although my wife was just telling my son's girlfriend's car. She was driving and the little genie light came on.
Too late light.
The one where the genie light, and on and on the story goes. Eventually, engine quit, took it to her brother looked under it. There was no oil in the dipstick, there was no filter. Filter had actually fallen off. So, but they do fall off in aviation. So they are safety. There's a lot of problems with these in aviation, but yeah, that is. If your safety wire isn't tight enough, then what you do is you tighten another piece of safety wire around and you pull it that way around over to the vacuum pump, and that's how that works out.
Are you allowed to just deck the mechanic at that point?
What's that?
Are you allowed to just deck the mechanic at that
Yeah,
point?
can you hit him with a?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 4313 says
Hit him with the bar. Hit him with the bar and-
If I was the pilot, that's what I would want to do.
That phone number we need you to copy.
Crankshaft gear on a Continental engine, looks like.
Hit 'em with the 40.
Big bore Continental.
Yeah.
What's wrong with this?
Too many top lists.
Literally hit me.
It's a little good, a lot is better, huh?
Pigtail.
Oh.
You know, I don't really care about the pigtail so much inside of an engine. If you get pinched by that inside of an engine, you shouldn't have had your hands in there anyway. But that is extremely. In fact, this was a picture that I took off the internet. It was talking about something else. I think it was talking about a gear inspection or something. I'm like, whoa, look at that safety wire, damn! And then it's just
So much.
so much.
Looks pretty.
I put this in here because it's just a gigantic pet peeve of mine, in that I can't believe that these are called B-nuts. So this is a hard line, but this nut would look the same if it was a hose. and they're not safetied, and I don't know why they're not safetied. I mean, if I was king for a day, I would make every single B-nut on every single hose and every single line safetied. I would just make it mandatory, because it wouldn't take much more than a little hole, just like they did right there. That one gets a safety. You can safety that to that, and that would just save lives. But we don't. And you've heard me say it before, the way that this is dangerous, and I guess to their argument, if it's put on right, it won't come off. And they would be correct. If it is put on right, it won't come off. But mechanics don't put them on right. They will either shove this onto pipe thread, which it doesn't belong, or screwed on one end, screwed on the other, tighten this one and go, yeah, I must have tightened that one, or get distracted or whatever. It will go on, finger tight. It will pass a run-up inspection without leaking, but it will not stay on. It will come off shortly after full power is put on.
Is there something about aluminum not backing off? Because like your spark plug leads, or your lead wires to your spark plugs aren't safety or anything?
Because a lot of times these are aluminum.
That's what I'm saying. Is there something about aluminum not backing off?
Aluminum backs off too.
Yeah.
Spark plug leads are just tight enough.
There was a video online that I saw where it's like they did like a vibration test of like a bolt on like
Yeah, I saw
something,
that.
and it just came right off.
Yeah.
What's the stuff you use? That yellow, I promise it's tight?
Yeah, torque stripe?
Yeah, I pretty promise.
I know you
Yeah,
guys, you were there working on my
Yeah, when you were
airplane.
using it on the, what was it, on the
That was the fuel line
Yeah,
on the
the fuel,
carburetor, and you
yeah.
saw how freaking over the top anal I was about that.
yeah.
Nice lock bar, it'd be a shame if something happened to it. That's me to you. All right, everybody gets your YouTube certified master. Actually, I have one of these in my office. It does say
Yeah,
YouTube
it's on the.
certified. Okay, this is there was something that I need to talk about. All right, so we covered all that. Questions about safety wire. Now we've covered safety wire.
I feel like an expert.
You should be an expert. You've done it, had the class twice.
You did it on Kevin's airplane.
I did.
What'd you safety?
The thing on the brake. On
Oh,
the,
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Safety my brakes on.
Yeah.
Do a double check on that one.
Well, you looked at it and you said,
He cut it the second you left.
yeah. I wonder his feelings. Just
Yeah, I did it right as soon as you left.
Hey Kevin, you want to just put the wheel housings back on? No, just leave them.
go ahead and just take out the inspection panels.
How many black widows were in the pants this time?
None. I sprayed for them. All right, so that gets me back around to hardware. So, but given the time, let's see.